start. I forgot to record us. Okay, let's start again. Thank you guys for joining. Let's start straight away with today's lecture. It's about kinesiology. So in last lecture, I was like trying to assess you guys also how much you know about exercise, but we'll start from the scratch itself. And scratch means there will be some terms which we need to learn because that's important in our field. And what these terms will help you, it will help you to make authority as well. For example, I'm good with it if you say this is shoulder, this is biceps, this is my forearm, this is my arm, chest. But it'll be great if you know the muscles and bones as well. You don't want to start reading the book and know about it. Best thing you can do whenever you're going into the gym and you're doing exercises. So, for example, I do dumbbell press or shoulder press. These are simplified terms for exercises. Start using as the terms as your muscles. For example, chest, we can go for pec major, minor. Then if you're talking about shoulder, we can use deltoids, anterior, lateral, posterior. So like that, you will build that naming convention, because if you're not using those, you'll again not be remembering those. And when it comes to, for example, content game, or you want to talk to your peers about it or anything like that, you need these naming conventions. So what is kinesiology? Kinesiology is, as I was explaining earlier, it's movement and motion of a human body. I'll not be touching upon whole anatomy, but the best way to learn anatomy is if you can buy a bone set. I've ordered my bone set, but it's still not there. Or if you have any charts where you can see all the bones and muscles. I'll quickly show how my chart looks like. So this is the chart mostly I use for bone set. This is your muscles, because sometimes it's, if you just want to locate which muscles you're working on, and there are like so many terms, so many muscles, it's not easy to remember all. So start with the basic. Whatever you're doing the workout, only concentrate on those muscles initially. For example, if I'm making a content, I'll say I'm doing a bicep curl, and instead of that, if I just add what muscles I'm working, for example, bicep brachii, brachialis, it gives me more authority, and the other person will definitely think, this guy knows something. Okay, so and it's good to know. I'm not saying you just have to know for the sake of others, but it's good to know if you're in this field. Okay, this is kinesiology and why it is needed. For example, we have so many countries. Take our body as a geography. So we have so many countries. We have north, east, different tropic of Cancer, equator. So all these are imaginary things and reference points. Same thing, we need to learn these terms with respect to our body. They have been given as a universal vocabulary language for easier communication, because to avoid any ambiguities between a layman language as well. For example, I'm using the term up, down. I'm saying in push-ups, go up and down. But it'll be more easier if I can precisely tell what you have to do, because there'll be some terms which having a same meaning. Up means above, down means lower, under. But if you want to work on the body, you want to learn these terminologies, for example, superior, anterior, posterior, which you can easily locate for the human body. So it makes your naming convention easy, and of course, it will help you to build authority as well. So with that being said, kinesiology is important. I'm not very great with it to remember all these terms, but as I said, it is important to learn these terms, because and it will not be easy for those who are really new to exercise. These terms will be like, why I'm learning these. So that's the reason. But slowly, when you start using those, you can get a hang of it. First one, we'll start straight away with the positions. So for that, like we have equator as Earth, a reference position, reference point. Same thing, we have a reference anatomical position as human body. So what does it look like? I'll go back. So if I'm standing straight, neck straight, looking forward, chest up, arms straight, this is my anatomical position. So basically, this is my reference position, reference point, where I start using any terms, any position, location on the human body. So if I have to talk about anterior or posterior, so this is my reference point always. Anterior means front of the body, posterior means back. So if I have to use in any terminologies or sentence, I can say, so this is my sternum and this is my spine. So I can say my sternum is anterior to spine, and same way my spine is posterior to sternum. So this is your anterior and posterior. Okay, I forgot to tell you one more thing. We have two more terms before this. Is axial, A-X-I-A-L, axial, which is your head, neck, and trunk. So this is axial part of the body. And second is appendicular part. Appendicular is your upper extremity. So head, neck, trunk, apart from that, whatever is left is your upper extremity and your lower extremity. So your leg, thighs, quads, calves, everything is lower extremity. So this is your appendicular part. So why we need to know this, again, I'll tell you when I'm explaining you this anatomical positions. So first one, I told you anterior and posterior. Second, we go for superior or inferior. It's not superior and inferior with respect to English language, where one person is superior to other or inferior. We are talking with terms of body. So superior is top, inferior is lower. Top part of the body and inferior is lower part of the body. Then don't confuse it with the proximal and distal. What is proximal is closer to the axial part, and distal is away from the axial part. For example, this is my arm and this is my forearm. So my arm is axial to forearm and my forearm is distal to my arm. Simple. So don't confuse it with superior and inferior. Proximal and distal are with respect to axial part of the body and appendicular part of the body. So proximal again is closer to axial part, and proximal is closer to axial part, and distal is away from the axial part. So we did anterior, posterior, we did superior, inferior, proximal, distal, now medial and lateral. So medial is, it's not middle, okay? Most of the people while learning, they get confused, but medial is, this is my center of the body going with the sternum. So closer to my sternum or midline of the body. That will be your medial. And lateral is away from the midline of the body. So if I divide my body into two parts, this is closer, anything closer. For example, we say my chest is medial to my deltoid, my shoulder, or my deltoid is lateral to chest because it is away and chest is closer to the midline of the body. So this is medial and lateral is away. Anything closer is medial, far is lateral. Simple. Then we did lateral, medial. Okay. Now we'll talk about the we'll talk about the motions a little late. I'll just remember if I forgot any other anatomical position. So we did anterior, posterior, superior, inferior, proximal, distal, medial, and lateral. And what else we have? Okay, I'll just quickly check if I've written what I've discussed. Lateral, medial, distal. Okay, so we have covered axial, appendicular, medial, lateral, and yes, one more, superficial and deep. So superficial, simple example is front of the body, deep is inside of the body basically. So one layer you can see is above and the down one is the deep. So superficial layer is like if you want to see your abs, that is your superficial. If you talk about inside muscles or take it as intestine inside, that is your deep. Okay, same thing. My biceps is superficial and the bone humerus is so this is superficial and my bone is deep. This is your another anatomical position. So these are the anatomical position we use. Next, just check if I'm forgetting anything. Okay, I've covered everything. Now, next we talk about the motions. As I said, this is my anatomical position. Okay, tell me any confusion in that. If you want more examples, I can give it to you. But these terminologies will be new. Maybe for you, it will be new and it will not be easier to remember all the names. So just try out with the examples. And if you want to write it down, write it down. But we have to know these terminologies because this is a universal language about human body. So we need to know. And even sometimes, for example, I'm getting a client who's really knowledgeable. So you don't want to say, okay, let's do push up, go down, and up. You can use the terms like bicep flexion, extension, do the extension. You want to use these terms to build your authority as well. Because when you're training an athlete, sometimes you're like closer to them. You can be casual, but I want you to have that authority so that you're serious to your profession and the other guy is listening. Okay, being casual, chit chat is fine, but when you're training, you're training. For example, if you're in office, you're working, you have to finish and work. You have to take it as a deadline. Okay, you cannot be chit chat all the time. Of course, there's some loose time you can enjoy, but again, same thing with this. We have to know about these terminologies. Next up, we'll start with the motions. So, and whenever you're practicing this inside the gym, always start with single joint. So, for example, we start with this is my anatomical position. If I'm going away from the anatomical position, for example, my elbow is moving away. So this is my anatomical position. Now I'm moving away. So this is my flexion. Okay. And if I'm again going back to anatomical position or closer to anatomical position, that is your extension. So for shoulder, this is flexion and this is extension. Elbow, flexion, extension. So this is your flexion extension. Most of the time people get confused with shoulder flexion extension. So you want only to visualize, imagine your shoulder joint. So this is my flexion, 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 90 degree, 180 degree, and this is my extension. Now, how you want to remember? I usually remember by doing this. I don't want to use the elbow part. So if anything I'm doing, this is my flexion. I'm only thinking about my shoulder. Because whenever I'm doing this, I feel my whole arm is moving. So instead of that, you have to focus on the joint. So go up, okay. Now my muscles are shortening and I'm extending. So you want to always imagine how your flexion and extension is happening at the shoulder, just like feel you don't have an elbow and work on this. Next one, we have abduction and adduction. So this is also known as abduction and adduction. Abduction means going away from the body, like we do lateral raises, and adduction means coming back. Now, how you want to remember this? Only remember add. Add means you're adding. So your body or arm is adding, getting closer. So this is your adduction. And whenever you're going away, somebody is abducting you, like pulling you. Abduct ka matlab like kidnap type. So somebody's taking away. So this is your abduction. Adduction, you're adding, and abduction is like abduct kiya kisi ko. Remember this. So same thing with the leg. If you want to use this, this is my abduction, adduction. Okay, now you want to remember abduction, adduction. Most of the time this is confusing. Whenever we are performing in the gym, same thing. Always memorize. Okay, I'm doing lateral raises. अगर ऊपर का याद नहीं आया, abduction याद नहीं आया, you want to, okay, adduction. My arm is getting adducted, like add हो रहा है. दो चीजें add हो रही, close हो गई. So you want to understand this is adduction. Simple. Next up, flexion, extension. Okay, there's one more. This is also people get confused. I don't want to confuse you, but it will be good to remember this. We have horizontal abduction and adduction as well. So horizontal, this plane. So if I'm coming in again, adduction, abduction. Okay, so we do flies. So you can remember this I'm doing in horizontal plane, adduction, horizontal, abduction. But if you understand what is abduction, adduction in this, it will be fine. Okay, I don't want to confuse with this, but this is fine. But if you're understanding this horizontal adduction, abduction, it's great. Okay, then what else we have? Let me check. We did abduction, adduction. Okay, so these are major movements. And the next one, let's go a little precise about wrist. So we have wrist whenever we are doing like chin-ups. So this is my palms facing the sky is your supine position. Okay, now if you turn around, this is your prone position. Simple way to remember this, if I'm doing chin-ups, okay, my white part, always this is white for most of the people. Yeah, like call it as a racism also. So white part always up. This is your chin up, and this is your in supine position or supine grip. If I'm going for pull up, the black part facing up, this is your prone position. Same thing we have on the ankle joint. So for ankle joint, you want to take up dorsiflexion, and this is plantar flexion. Okay, and this is again confusing, the dorsi thing and Plantar flexion, this is again confusing. So dorsi is closing and plantar is opening. So always how you want to, I usually remember, but you can find your own way to remember things. So dorsi, D-O-R-S-I, it's a short term. So this is my ankle. Angle is reducing. So dorsi short hai, angle bhi reduce ho raha hai. So this is dorsiflexion. Plantar is big. Okay? Like if you see the letters, plantar is big. So now the angle with respect to ankle, it's also big. So you want to say as plantar flexion. Okay, this is just my way of understanding. So this is like dorsiflexion. This is plantar flexion. They have precisely described for ankle, and because of the joints, they have done it. Else you just want to remember flexion and extension. So even if I'm doing with ankle, you can just remember flexion and extension. That is good enough. But whenever, as I said, even in research papers or anything, these terms you might be listening a lot or reading a lot. So you should know these terms. We did wrist. Okay, next up, rotational movements. Now, rotational movements has to be, you have to only concentrate on the joint always, because those are confusing. So if I'm going for let's see my shoulder, this is medial. Basically medial, I'm coming closer to the midline of the body, and this is lateral. Okay, medial, lateral. But what is happening inside the shoulder? This is internal rotation. You don't want to watch what my arm is doing. Okay, these are small tips which are confusing. Whatever, always, if I'm going this, external, internal, no, always see at the shoulder joint what is happening. So this is external, this is internal. You have to focus on shoulder joint. Right now, this is complementing. This is going same thing, external, internal. Okay, let's go for the hip joint. Okay, so for hip, if I go this way, this is internal. If I go out, this is external. Now watch. I bend. Okay. Now, as I said, don't watch the leg. Focus on the joint. Again, this is internal. Most of the time people get confused. They say this is external rotation. No. This is internal, and see, this is external. So whenever you're performing any rotational movement, focus should be on the joint. You can think with respect to the joint movement, not your complete arm movement or leg movement. Same thing. Most of the time people get confused when I'm explaining them or about bicep flexion or extension. They get confused with knee. So knee is not knee. This is extension. Now from anatomical position, as I say, it is going away. It's going away. This is flexion. Basically, you're reducing the angle. You can remember with this also. If you're reducing the angle, that is flexion. If you're increasing the angle, that is your extension. As simple as that. So this is flexion and this is extension. Okay, whenever you talk about, okay, we want to do hamstring curls, people are like, okay, knee, hamstring is for, okay, I don't want to confuse with the muscles. We're not talking about muscles. We'll just talk only about the position. I don't want to confuse you with the muscles. We'll take the muscles part when we talk about force and how our muscles are happening. Because most of the time, as I said, in previous example, like previous lecture, sorry, we discussed about this. So this is flexion of the shoulder and extension of the elbow. Like two joints are involved. You want to practice all the position with one joint. Always think of the joint. Okay, flexion, flexion, extension. Okay, abduction. Okay, adduction. Cool. So this is how you want to practice these positions. Don't confuse with the muscle, because whenever muscles involved, this is bicep flexor. And we feel, okay, flexion means these are my flexors and they are working on bicep always. No, you don't want to get confused. Most of the books are written like that, but that is not the fundamental or conceptual part. When we introduce force, concepts of force, you will understand that better, that how with change in position, motions, you can change the muscle groups. Okay, so we'll not talk about that. If you know already, forget it. This will be confusing. It is like same thing, you're unlearning and learning it again. I hope all the anatomical positions you're clear. With respect to bone and muscles, you want to learn those. I'll share the book, which book you can read for if you want to know about the muscles and bones, because that most of the time no book is wrong. Okay, most of the book has covered, but I'll give you the good book where you can read about all these. And okay, I get a message. Okay, from me. Cool. So let's continue. Okay, so we did all the anatomical position. I think I've covered everything. I'll just quickly check. We did supine, prone, everything. All the motions we have also covered. Cool. Next up, we'll talk about planes. Okay. Now again, why planes are important? As I said, we have in geography north, west. I'm not sure if this is the west, east. Okay, south. So we have 4 directions. Same thing. We need to map our body as well in particular direction. So we have 3 planes: sagittal, frontal, transverse. Same thing, we have north, south, east, west. And we can have so many, northeast, 120, like that, northwest, so many directions we can have. Same thing, we can have multiple planes, but let's understand only these 3. These are the 3 major one. And how do you want to remember is, first I'll explain the definition, then I'll give you the easier way to remember that also. First one, sagittal plane. So this is a vertical plane. You want to imagine you're dividing your body into 2 parts. So imagine I'm standing and you want to imagine you're cutting your body into 2 parts, like from the center, left and right. Left and right. This is your sagittal plane. So any movement you're performing in sagittal plane has to be in this part. For example, bicep flexion. So if I like divide into 2 halves, I'm doing this movement in sagittal plane. Okay. Now, how I would like to remember this always. You want to sandwich the particular movement, for example, and you will get that plane. For example, if I'm doing biceps, so keep imagining I'm doing biceps. Okay, bicep curls. Now, this part, it will come and I'm trying to sandwich it. So, okay, watch me. I'm doing here bicep curls. Okay, watch, keep doing it. Now this hand is coming and the other hand is coming and I'm sandwiching it. So this is your, let's try. I don't have something. So you just want to, like, this is continuously I'm doing bicep curl and this part, another arm is sandwiching it and it's not making any perpendicular. It's in that plane. So this is your.
Sumir, let me know if you want me to demonstrate.
Okay, come live if you can open your screen. If you have, like, I want you to feel there are 2 boards. Okay, and between 2 boards you want to sandwich that movement. So any movement, if I'm doing flexion, extension, and if I sandwich it like 2 arms, If you have anything, Neil, you can just demonstrate it. These two parts is your sagittal movement.
Yeah, I can. Okay. So let me.
Okay, so by definition, sagittal plane is dividing your body into left and right movements. But when it comes to any
Yeah.
movement,
So what I'll do. So if I'm doing my flexion in the gap between these two mats, so I'm sandwiching my body, right? Like
yeah,
this.
so exactly. So that's how you want to remember your sagittal plane. So this arm is coming like this arm is coming like this, you're sandwiching the movement. Same thing, if I'm doing flexion, like front raises, I'm sandwiching it. Okay, let's go for next one. If you have any confusion, like guys, do ask me. Second one, frontal plane. Now, frontal plane, you divide your body in front and back, anterior and posterior. So, we were dividing like this, left and right. Now, divide it like this, front and back. Mid say you have to cut the body. Now, again, how you want to sandwich it? Okay. For example, now I'm doing abduction or adduction. So again, I'm doing abduction, this part, and you always want to make it a sandwich for any movement. Maybe in the next session, I'll have two boards ready with me. And okay, let's try to. So take this one, two things. Okay, now here I'm doing flexion of biceps. So see, I'm not, मैं कभी भी इसको काट नहीं रहा. Okay, I'm always in this movement. Same thing. अभी अगर I have to do abduction के लिए मुझे ये काटना पड़ेगा, right? I cannot do. I have to go through this plane. So it's not in sagittal plane. Now, if I'm doing abduction, one, and I have to come between those. Like if you can see, in from the front. अभी तक हमने अगर बाइसेप कर रहे थे तो काफी confusing हो जाएगा. I don't want to make it confused for you, but you want to make it as a sandwich. Like this is your sagittal plane, and from the front, this is your frontal plane. So mostly if I'm doing abduction, adduction, this is my frontal plane. For example, if I'm going for shoulder press, so this is my frontal plane. If I divide my body into two halves, this is my frontal plane. And if I take this same movement forward, this is my sagittal plane. क्योंकि now अभी मैं ऐसे sandwich कर रहा हूँ, और यहाँ पे ऐसे sandwich नहीं करता मैं, मेरे को front से sandwich करना पड़ेगा. This is your frontal and sagittal plane. If it is little confusing, it's okay. You want to understand body का movement किस plane में हो रहा है. Last one, transverse plane, which is dividing the body into top and lower. Okay, so upper and lower half. You want to divide it into superior and inferior. That is your transverse plane. Now, transverse plane, most of the rotational movements are happening in transverse plane. For example, if I'm doing this, I'm cutting this movement, so I cannot do this. But if I'm doing horizontal adduction or abduction, so I'm always in this plane. So my sandwich will come from here and here, but I'm in this plane. So this is my transverse plane. So two, I'm having vertical plane. This one, this is my sagittal. If I sandwich, this is my frontal. And if I go for horizontal, this is my transverse plane. So most of the horizontal rotational movements are transverse plane, and flexion, extension, most of the movements are in sagittal plane. Abduction, adduction movements are in frontal plane. But as I said, there are multiple planes. We have multiple possibilities. If you're combining, we have circumduction, oblique plane, so many planes. So you don't want to remember all these. For example, if I'm going for Shoulder press, frontal plane. Shoulder press, sagittal plane. I can have shoulder press in scapular plane. Here, anywhere I can have shoulder press. So there are multiple planes involved. Now, one thing to remember, these planes are with respect to only human body. Only human body. For example, I'm standing right now. I'm doing a front raises. So I'm flexing my shoulder, I'm extending my shoulder. Now, if I'm lying down, I'm doing the still same thing. I'm flexing and extending. So right now I'm doing flexion and extension in, this is my sagittal plane. And if I'm down on the ground, lying down on the ground, imagine I'm sleeping, and again I'm doing flexion and extension, it will be same as sagittal plane. It will not change. Okay, so I hope you got these about little terms, and if it is confusing, take it easy. When we start implementing, then you will get to know, okay, this is flexion or this is extension. Okay, and same thing with respect to planes, you need to perform movements and understand. And how you want to do, always do with respect to one joint and one plane. Don't confuse yourself. Like, don't start doing immediately go for push-ups and imagining, okay, this is, if I want to sandwich again, of course it is in sagittal plane, but don't go for multiple joint exercises immediately. You want to familiarize yourself, take it easy, take it slow. So go for always single movement. Okay, this is my flexion extension of the elbow. I'll see what is happening. Okay, if I sandwich, this will come into sagittal plane. Same thing, just choose singular exercise, unilateral work. Don't do multiple joint exercises and start imagining things, because visualization takes time. This is all 3D movements. That's why a bone set will be helpful, because we don't know what is exactly happening inside our body. If I'm going for bicep curl, if I know the internal structure of how my humerus looks like, how bumpy is it, how the joint are attached, I'll get to know, okay, because we feel, okay, I'm doing some exercise, but internally what is happening, we have no clue. How muscles are working, how joints are working, how ligaments are treating you, you have no idea. So if you have a bone set, it will be easier to understand, okay, this is my bone looks like. So you just want to familiarize yourself with bones and muscles, and whenever you're going for your training, start using some of these terms and imagine. If it is confusing, next lecture, ask me, we'll have a quick maybe Q&A regarding with respect to only anatomical positions. You don't want to be like super involved in it, engrossed in it, कि learn करना ही करना है, सब सारे planes जानना नहीं. थोड़ा सा idea है, काफी है. Our main target will be when we start with our next lecture about force. Those things are concepts and fundamentals. Those are the important ones. This is important to know stuff, how you map your human body, what are the planes respect to human body. But next we'll start with the fundamentals. I think Karan and Ashutosh have left, so Mani is there, Neil is there. Let me know if you have any confusion. This is about our today's lecture about kinesiology, and if anything you're confused, we can go ahead and demonstrate with another examples to make it clear. Let me know. Mani, did you get some idea? Because I think you are completely new.
Bro, can you demonstrate?
Neil?
No, let Mani.
Yeah, Mani, go ahead, because I think you're completely new. So I want you to, if you get some idea out of this lecture, okay, you know some of the stuff, some of the plane, how anatomic position works. You want to, all this thing is compare, you have to compare with geographical location. जैसे Earth का equator, Tropic of Cancer, northwest location है, you have to understand northwest is my plane with respect to human body, and equator, Tropic of Cancer, these are the reference points. These are imaginary lines. Nobody has seen this. Same thing. So same thing. We want to all these anatomic position. This is my anatomic position. This is my imaginary line. Okay, I think I'm not sure if he's there, but
Yes. I'm here, Sumir.
okay. So you got some idea, right?
Yeah. I got some idea, but terms are new to me.
Yes.
Um, and in in between little bit, I like on and off for because my child was crying. So
Okay, it's okay. So
like I missed it. Maybe I need to check the video again.
yeah, you go
Sorry for that.
again with the lecture. I'll share the recording, and whenever you go to gym, take any simple movement. Okay, I'm doing bicep curls or barbell curl, and imagine what is happening. Okay, this is flexion, this is extension is happening. I'm moving away from the anatomical position, so flexion, reducing the angle of joint, flexion. Okay, that's how you want to keep implementing inside the gym. That's it, as simple as that.
Sumir, sorry, just one thing maybe. Like we were talking about sandwich, like its position, or I, that part is confusing me. Like,
Okay, so there are multiple planes. We have three planes: sagittal, frontal, and transverse. Okay, so how you want to
sagittal is it? Like maybe I'm not getting that term.
sagittal?
Like the
S A
sagittal.
yes, SAGITTAL. So this is your
Okay.
okay. I will share the book as well, where you can get like spelling and these terms exactly. Okay, if you're confused what to say to them or what is the exact spelling, you can go through that book. I'll tell you the chapter also. Mainly first and second chapter are important, and you don't want to read everything on that. That's why what is the most important thing out of it, I'm telling you that only. And that book will not tell you how to remember those things, so you want to apply your brain there, how you want to make it easier for yourself. So that's why I've given
Okay.
some of the clues how you want to remember few of the things like abduction, adduction, because these things are pretty
Yeah.
common, but and it'll keep coming like dorsiflexion, plantar flexion. All these things will be a little difficult to use in our daily language. Okay, unless you are like completely your goal is to as a fitness professional. If you're not a fitness professional and you want to, even if you want to do work for part-time also, it's good to know these terms. Okay, and like sagittal plane I was explaining, so you want to imagine these two arms and you are doing a bicep curl. So in which plane you're doing, if you make a sandwich of this bicep curl, you'll get to know, okay, this is my sagittal plane. Now, if I'm doing abduction, so I cannot sandwich this, right? But I can sandwich
Correct. Yeah.
the front. This is like you need a 3D visualization. Let's try to do with this one book. Okay, so this is my bicep position, right? I'm doing a bicep curl.
Yeah.
So this,
Yeah.
ठीक है, मैं इसको intersect नहीं कर रहा. I'm not doing any intersection. So this is freely moving in this plane, right? Without
Yeah.
hitting.
Correct.
So this is my sagittal plane, and you have to imagine the same book is here as well. Okay.
Okay.
So this is sagittal plane. Now imagine I'm in sagittal plane. I want to do abduction, so I'll hit this, right?
Yeah.
So this, I cannot perform this movement in sagittal plane. So what I will do for this movement, I want to do again sandwich frontal plane.
Okay.
So this will be my frontal plane. As a definition, sagittal plane is dividing the body into two halves. Okay, left and right. So if I divide the body in this half and I'm doing bicep curl, so this is my sagittal plane. I'm doing sagittal plane. If I divide the body in front and back like this, I'm doing, so this is half, I'm doing abduction. No, this is frontal plane now.
Okay.
This is sagittal, left and right, front and back. If I cut the body in front and back, like ऐसे काटना है, ठीक है, mid से. This is my interior, like, and this is my posterior. So I have to cut it from the center. Okay, and if I perform this movement, this is in frontal plane. Okay, and any movement here will be transverse. Any rotational movement, most of the rotational movements are your transverse plane, which is up and down. If you cut the body from the middle, up and down will be your transverse. But when you want to apply, okay, when you want to implement, it's always easier. For me, it's always easier to sandwich the movement. So I know, okay, this plane I'm performing this movement. So you got the definition, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if I want to do this movement as a flexion or bicep curl, now I'm doing in sagittal plane. See, you can see, this is my sagittal plane, but I'll make it as a sandwich. If you're confused, if you're clear with this, I don't want to confuse you, but as a memory, because we'll involve so many movements, I want to sandwich this movement here. This my one arm is coming. Imagine another arm is coming from here, or there are two books which are trying to squeeze my arm in the center. Okay, but my arm is free, still free, right?
Okay.
Now, if I do this, I'm hitting this book always. So this movement can be possible in frontal plane, which is if I squeeze from one book here and one book from behind, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now from here, if I want to go for transverse plane, like abhi movement, it's up and down, right? Abduction, adduction. Now if I go for horizontal adduction, like here, again I hit the book, right?
Yeah.
Now you want to come from down, like this is my transverse plane. This is a free movement, and one book from up. So
Okay. So I think see, like to my view, right? Like suppose if we are in a lift, so left side and right side is a sagittal plane, and then top and bottom is transfer plane. So front and back is a front plane, right?
Yes,
Frontal plane.
yes, this is perfect. But this is with the definition wise. But when you go to gym and perform some movements, and you want to visualize which plane I'm doing the movement, this is how you want to do it. But it's okay. If you understood with that term, it's perfectly fine. Or use this example. Always start with sagittal plane movement and see, okay, I'm free. I'm not hitting anything. Now, if I go for this, I will hit my arm or my book if I'm using anything. This is just for an example I'm giving. And then again, this is frontal plane. Now, if I go for horizontal movement, again, I'll hit. So I want to do it in transverse plane. This only analogy will help you to understand all these three planes, but still it is confusing. When you perform in any exercise, it will be confusing. So for now, a little idea about these is clear, because now next topic, it will be completely different, force and all. We might just use these terms, okay? Mainly flexion, extension, all these terms, you might use it, but it's good to know the kinesiology a bit, which will help you to improvise your communication. Okay.
So like this will be kind of like to avoid some exercise on these positions, something like that, is it? To like the imaginary plans which we are talked about. So
yes, so it'll be easier to see the line of force in which plane it is. When we talk about the force stuff, you'll get to know. Okay, like for example, if I'm doing any exercise, I'm doing in which plane. But if I talk about, these are mostly these terminologies which you want to be familiarized with. Okay, I can say shoulder as shoulder because everyone understands it, but I want to be particular. For example, we have different bones, humerus, forearm. So this is like if I want to say this is just forearm, or as a like we can say as a thigh, but we have particular names of the muscles and the bones. So same thing, these terminologies have been designed to make our communication easier and map inside our human body. So next time, if I'm telling, I'm flexing my arm, you should know, okay, I'm moving away from the anatomical position, or I'm reducing the angle.
yeah.
So you are reducing the angle between the joint. Now, if I increase, it is the extension. Cool.
Yeah, got it.
That's it. So this much is enough to know about the kinesiology part, and I'll refer you the book as well, so that you will know the terms as well, particular spelling if you want to. If you're confused about the pronunciation or how the spelling looks like, I'll share the book as well. Okay, in the group.
Okay.
Cool. Okay. That's it. I hope Neil, it's a little clear for you as well. I think you know some of these stuff already.
Yeah.
But we'll keep using these terms so that you're able to familiarize as well. Okay, we'll use more examples. Okay. Okay. That's it, guys. Thank you, Mani, for joining. Thanks, Neil.
Thank you so much.
See ya. Bye-bye.